This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Anthony for three. Bang!
Sports fans, we are live for the 39th episode of the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I'm Spence the Menace.
And I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And on this episode of the podcast, we are recapping the college football playoff in our starting lineup, along with some other major college football and MLB news, recapping week 18 of the NFL regular season. And we also will be seeing which teams will be kicking old habits and trying to figure out how these teams can adjust in our color commentary.
Or will they relapse?
And our primetime game and film room will consist of predictions and a parlay created by us regarding wildcard weekend next week. So Ruckus, kind of how are we doing today?
We are doing just fine. Watched some football this weekend and played some had some much needed, well, I wouldn't say much needed game time, but just played some video games and chilled out for the most part, and caught up on sleep, charged the batteries. How about you?
Yeah, this has been a rather almost like uneventful week, pretty much. I mean, I enjoyed time with my other half as we were in the early goings of full wedding mode, as we had some time kind of to figure out what kind of some things were going to look like. We're about 72 days out now, so that's a plus. I got a little bit of God of War in today. Got a little bit of I've gotten a little bit of Madden in throughout the week as football has kind of been on the kick, and I played some Magic the Gathering Arena today, while also kind of figuring out some other things that potentially could put me in line. Watched Glass Onion, the Knives Out thing, over the weekend. That one was pretty good. So really, I mean, I've been kind of it seems like I've done a lot despite an uneventful week, but really just, it's nice to not have like anything major going on.
For sure,
So,
it's always good to have a break.
Yeah. And it'll be nice to also have some wild card weekend fun. I think I'm also going to be taking in some live high school hoops this weekend, as just before my fiance heads out of town for the weekend. So yeah, I'm not going to be going on this trip just because I have wedding invitations to hand out. So we'll have all that going on. But are we ready to get right into the biz of it all?
Oh yeah.
Today's starting lineup is going to be divided up into 3 sections. And we are going to start with the NFL. In this journey that we've been dealing with in the health of Damar Hamlin, he has now been discharged from a hospital in Buffalo. But while he was in Cincinnati during the Bills-Patriots game, he accidentally set off all the alarms in the University of Cincinnati hospital unit when celebrating the opening kickoff of the game being returned for a touchdown. I know that this almost sounds like a very dud-worthy thing, but to see that progress with Hamlin is actually almost like a stud type thing. So I kind of just decided to place this thing here. And I need to add one more thing here.
Oh, we can talk about that too.
Yep.
Want me
But
go for it.
but the next thing that that's it. That's going to be in a later section. I wanted to make sure I did that first. Uh, but the Pro Bowl games have officially been revealed. The event, the 2-day saga includes dodgeball on Thursday, a lightning round consisting of 3 different events that involve some tossing of water balloons and and buckets on tops of heads of coaches on Thursday, along with a long drive competition, precision passing, and a best catch contest that is going on across the span of both days. On Sunday, you have the Gridiron Gauntlet, a, a game of kick tack toe with the kickers, punters, and long snappers, and move the chains. And after all that is said and done, you have a trio of 7-on-7 flag football games. Is there anything in all of this after looking at the tweets, or looking at the list, or kind of after I kind of explained it, anything that really strikes your fancy?
I'm gonna have to say, is Gridiron Gauntlet the one with the dodgeball?
No, that actually is Epic Pro Bowl dodgeball. Like, that's going to be done Thursday.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how the best catch contest goes. The kick tack toe sounds like an interesting one. If they do have, did you say they were gonna have field goal kickers too?
Yeah, but well, kick tack toe consists of kickers, punters, and long snappers.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is where I think, for me, I will watch that simply for Tress Way. Um, but there's a few things that make this really, really exciting. The quarterbacks are doing precision passing. The receivers will be doing the best catch contest. Um, I'll I'm gonna be very intrigued to see who is going to be in the long drive competition. But I would have loved few other like a few other outside fun things to go along with this. I I'm shocked they didn't do something like a 3-on-3 basketball game, or something along those lines, or a few other like little, like, I would have loved a couple of more very creative non-football things. Cuz a long drive competition, that's just simply golf.
Because like the only other thing they have that isn't football related technically is dodgeball.
No, dodgeball, you have some football related things with throwing and catching, and making things miss.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Uh, I also feel like they just don't really want to get the players
Injure
hurt.
anybody, yeah.
Because that was pretty
But
much why the Pro Bowl was so like kind of phased out, because no one was really taking it seriously or like hitting very hard. It was just like, okay, this team gets a touchdown this position and the other one tries to do something fancy.
yeah, but there could have been something like a 3-point shootout, or maybe have some of these football players like kind of test their bowling skill. Because trust me, there are some football players that can bowl. T.O. could, Jerome Bettis could. I mean, we know of at least a couple of major baseball players. I know of at least 2 that were in Red Sox uniforms that could.
Yeah, they could probably do that. It'd be interesting to see like if they could do like one of those events where if you like hit a target with like a ball or something, there's like a dunk tank involved. So I think they did that
Oh,
for a year.
that would have been fun. That would have been fun just to kind of see how far out maybe how far out that you could hit the dunk tank for the quarterbacks.
Yeah, put make the target the one that's like floating in the air, that's like really far out, like from years past for the precision passing.
Or like for the passing event, yeah.
Yeah, because like I don't know, I like that aspect, but I don't know. There's not a whole lot you could do outside of football besides the bowling you were saying, or dodgeball or whatnot. Um, I was thinking maybe they would have a home run derby, but then that would just be kind of like, okay, we're promoting something else.
Maybe with wiffle balls.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, just making a whole bunch of smaller scale and just see them try and swing around, swing around, hitting a wiffle ball. That would be that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But now to the second fit. Want to move on to the second phase now?
Yep. Want me to start
The
it off?
second, well, the second phase of this, because I'll let you focus more on the third. The second phase of this is college football. Two national champions were crowned in the past week or so. South Dakota State won the FCS championship over North Dakota State. And then Monday night's drubbing
Can
as
I add one thing?
Georgia won 62-7 over TCU. And what were you wanting to add, Ruckus?
Oh, Georgia literally turned TCU into frog legs.
Oh,
I
I
heard they
was
were very. I heard they were very crispy.
well. I think this was just a complete. It's not that TCU was not good, and it's not that the Big 12 is a bad conference. It's just that the SEC overall is just, in terms of the quality of football, is just a huge step above the Big 12.
Yeah. I mean,
And
at least they scored a touchdown and didn't just have a goose egg, but still, like, I was thinking whenever they got to halftime, I was like, okay, they could technically turn this around, and then they got back from halftime and Georgia, like, just threw another touchdown on them. I was like, okay, this ain't gonna end well.
Well, Georgia also, I think, got the ball to start the second half, too. So
Yeah.
momentum just did not exist for the Horned Frogs. And while we've covered the two other main pieces, the College Football Hall of Fame inductees have been announced, and the headliners of this class include Reggie Bush and Tim Tebow. But this year's College Football Hall of Fame class is a little special to me over here in the Eastern Panhandle of West V, as former Shepherd University head coach Monty Cater has also been inducted into the Hall. And I have not seen him since he was inducted, but I know that as soon as I do, I will be I will congratulate him in person. So, because this is a big accomplishment for, well, that is, I mean, he's been up at least in the candidacy over the last like few years, and now he's finally gotten in. Now he's finally gotten in.
The big feat.
Yep. Especially for a school over here in kind of the outskirts of really the Beltway, and it's starting to develop some NFL talent. I mean, you had Howard Jones come through. I think Connor Jessup had some preseason time in Washington. Chanel Jenkins, Dom Jones, like a few of those names. But Shepherd University could have one big name that might might enter the.
Hey, Spanish, what were you saying about the Senior Bowl thing? Sorry, you cut out for a second.
Yeah, one of the players that's going to be in the Senior Bowl is Shepherd University quarterback Tyson Bagent.
All right.
Yeah, so that's kind of like one of those look out for that and kind of kind of see kind of see where this goes because he might be a very late round draft. He might be a very late round draft pick or a very sought after undrafted free agent. But now we're to your phase of this in talking about Major League Baseball. And I'm sure you're going to probably go through a few of these headlines beyond what I have here.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to start with the kind of the bad news first and good news later. The bad news being Liam Hendricks undergoing non-Hodgkin lymphoma or it's not bad that he's going through treatment, but it's just bad that he was diagnosed.
Diagnosed.
Yeah, where we send our prayers to him and hope for a good recovery. Um, and on that note, the Dodgers are not keeping Trevor Bauer. He
I
is,
think this is a liability issue more than anything else.
yeah, you could say the Dodgers have a Bauer outage now. Um, so, and now onto the good news. So, Justin Turner signs with the Red Sox and reunites with great friend and former Dodger teammate Kike Hernandez.
And I'm sure that I've seen the video. I saw the video of course, those two being reunited. And this is definitely, it's a very interesting move, but I think it's going to feel really, really good, especially if they have great chemistry together.
Oh yeah, I think they'll mesh well. I just didn't see Turner going to the Red Sox, to be honest, but it'll be an interesting watch to see since Turner was on the other side of the dugout whenever he saw the Red Sox last time. Um, Carlos Correa is officially returning to the Minnesota Twins on a 6-year, $200 million contract. Um,
This whole free agency for Correa has been a monstrous roller coaster.
yeah, you know, it's weird that like that first week that we covered him, we were like, all right, he's going to the Giants. Okay, we'll see. Does Brandon Crawford get kicked off of his shortstop job? Who the hell uh takes over at third? Or do they put Correa at third? Do we do this? And then like 2 weeks go by, and then they're like, up, he's going to the Mets.
Going to the Mets.
And then 2 weeks later after that, it's like, well, what if we told you that we're not signing him due to, the same health concerns? And then 2 weeks go by from that. And then now we come to literally, was it today when they did announce
Yeah,
it? Okay.
it looked like it was just today.
And my guy Correa is back as a Twin. So, I mean, they really do fill a void when it comes to the shortstop position because it was either that or Luis Arraez, Jorge Polanco, or someone else in that line. But it's definitely been a interesting thing. Nelson Cruz going to the San Diego Padres.
I do want to make one little hold up here. How much of this might have been a Boris thing? Because I believe he's a Boris represented player. And Correa noticed that there was one common thing here. The contract years got shorter and the money got smaller. He went from 13 years tree fitty for the San Francisco deal. Then it went to it was a 10-year, $315 million deal to go to New York. And now it's a 6-year, $200 million deal to stay in Minnesota. It something seems a little odd, but it took three physicals for Correa to pass all over one leg. Something's a little bizarre, but I don't know if what necessarily could be called shenanigans on that. But
Yeah, it's weird.
beyond that, we'll go back to the boomstick.
Yep. So the Padres uh agreed with a signing for it was a 1 year, $1 million deal with Nelson Cruz, a 42-year-old slugger that could be a DH complement to lefty swinging Matt Carpenter, who signed a 1 year deal last month.
Matt Carpenter, but wait, is that meaning that they're actually deciding to play Luke Voigt at first?
I will have to see what goes on with that. To be honest, uh, what the heck? Wow, this was news from last week. The Honeywell contract, since we didn't really cover the MLB last week. Brent Honeywell Jr., I believe his name is, signed a 725,000 deal, and then Adam Engel.
I don't think, but none of
Declined
those
option.
deals were huge. I mean, I don't even think that Brandon Belt deal to Toronto was all that huge either.
Yeah, it was like a 1 year, 9 million. Miguel Rojas, a former infielder for the Miami Marlins, gets traded to the Dodgers for number 15 prospect Jacob Amaya. Um, Former Red Sox pitcher Darwino Hernandez got
If
traded to.
Darwinson Hernandez got traded to Baltimore,
At least it was not like the Yankees or something like that. And then Shintaro Fujinami, is that how you say that?
yeah, I believe so.
He signs a 1 year contract with the Oakland Athletics, which I didn't know how big the contract was, but I feel like I don't know. I I feel like this will be an interesting one to say the least. And then what else do we have? Phillies trade for Gregory Soto and Cody Clemens from the Tigers for Nick Matten, Matt Vierling, and Donnie Sands. I
Yeah.
think this is a big win for the Phillies. As far as Soto goes, hopefully he stays healthy. Cody Clemens is a good pick instead of Nick Matten. They essentially get a like 10% buff as he seemed to be a lot better in OPS and just getting on base. And don't make me point at Pete because I'll have him tell you that he gets on base. That was a Moneyball reference.
Yep.
And then last news thing for this week, the Tigers are changing the outfield dimensions at Comerica Park. Uh,
Oh,
on Wednesday, the Tigers announced arguably the most speculated move of the offseason, the changing of the home park's outfield dimensions. The center field wall, the symbol of Comerica Park's deep outfield, will be moved in from 422 to 412 feet and lowered from 8.5 to 7 feet. The massive wall in right center field above the out-of-town scoreboard will be lowered from 13 to 7 feet in height. That is 13 to 7 feet. The
they
right
are
fi-
now trying to turn that into a hitter's park.
The right field wall will be lowered to the same height from 8.5 to 7 feet. The left field will be unchanged, but after research and laser measuring. Laser! The left field corner dimensions have been corrected from 345 to 342 feet. So literally 3 feet off. let's just trim off the fat a little bit.
It's weird because last year Baltimore decided to move that left field section back. Now Detroit is trying to turn itself into a little more hitter friendly, which that was normally known for being one of the more pitcher dominated parks.
You know, when your franchise is kind of not the best, and they only have a few guys that could actually hit it over that wall, maybe there's a reason for that. But I think it's always more just the fact that they want to change things up too. It's not always just due to the talent on the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's changing things up, but then you're also wanting but then there's also the entertainment value of home runs too. But this could be possibly an all-star could be an all-star game push in the future as well, but you never know what's going on here.
Yeah, and to be honest, the Tigers Comerica Park kind of reminds me a little bit like dimension wise of like if they whenever I see the trimming of whatever, like especially the left field side kind of reminds me of like Coors Field a little bit. Not so much the right side because the right side was more like higher up, but like the left side was like more like a bleacher, like standard bleacher seating. It seems.
Yeah, it's you're saying like Coors Field but without the elevation.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah. Are we ready for the high heat?
Yep, we're definitely ready. And the first major thing that we go on to with the week 18 recap of the high heat of the NFL season, the most impressive team. Which way you thinking?
I am going with the Bills because I'll get into it later, but they as far as my main reason, but they looked good. They looked like a team that is playoff ready and not a team that just kind of, just throwing stuff at the wall or trying to do something that they didn't have to do, like doing too much or playing themselves. They did a good job.
Saying that my most impressive team this week was my own. I mean, there were a few things that very much weren't great, but I think there were more things that actually were in terms of defense, special teams, and the fact that the Commanders beat the Cowboys. The most disappointing team.
I'm gonna have to say it. The Las Vegas Raiders.
I'm sure there's not much else that really needed to be said with that.
Yeah, let's just put it there.
Now, the interesting thing with my case here is that why would I be putting a team that won as a team being disappointing? The disappointing team I have this week is the Houston Texans, who won off of a 2-point conversion, but in winning, they lost the number 1 overall draft pick, as that now has gone to the Chicago Bears because of them winning. And who was your most impressive player this week?
My impressive player this week is Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers.
And for me, I am going with Josh Allen. Hold up. Before we go any further, I'm not talking about the quarterback. I'm talking the linebacker from the Jacksonville Jaguars. For pretty much being at the right place at the right time to recover the game-winning fumble for a touchdown and sending the Jacksonville Jaguars to the postseason with the AFC South title ripping it away from the Tennessee Titans. And now it is time for our Eastwood segment for another week in a row. Ruckus, take it away.
The good, the bad, the ugly. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Okay. So, what was your good for this week?
All right, my good for this week was the Patriots' streak of making the playoffs is finally over. A NFL fan sigh of relief. Yes, I said NFL because everybody but the Patriots fans were hoping that they would get back into the playoffs again.
We're in a full sigh of relief yet for certain situations, but that's completely on the other side of the conference bracket. But for me, the good involves the AFC South, as the game between the Titans and the Jaguars was very much like a game that was for all the marbles. And it had a fantastic finish with Jacksonville winning it in the final seconds. It was actually a very fantastic finish. And while we had the good, what was kind of not so good?
My bad was the Raiders' last game giving the Chiefs the number 1 seed because they did not show up. And for the most part, I mean, they were already eliminated from the playoffs, but they still could have made it a little bit more interesting on the Chiefs Raiders game.
You know it's bad when you're there, and I know that we're going to mention this later for a different reason involved, but I'm sorry, if you've got the other team ringing around the rosy in the middle of a play, you have embarrassed yourself.
Yeah, we will get into that later. For sure.
Oh, I don't even think we've even mentioned the coaches that were fired.
You mean expired, like the ants in the Geico commercial?
Yeah, I mean, we already had, I think, 3 of them in talking about Matt Rule, Nathaniel Hackett, and Frank Reich.
And now Cliff Kingsbury and Lovie Smith are now expired.
But then to go along with that, we also had a few offensive coordinators go, and some of that will get mentioned here a little bit later. Most notably, the Jets and the Titans. But there will be another one I'll mention later. But my bad also came with history not being able to be made as attempts to break Megatron's receiving yards mark fall flat. And there were not one but 2 major pursuits that came up short. Tyreek Hills was done weeks ago, but Justin Jefferson was unable to catch it himself either. Another great season, but just was not able to catch it.
Yeah, it probably didn't help that he didn't get much action in the Packers game a week ago either. So
yeah, but then I think there were a few games where he could have gotten more, but didn't. And the ugly this week.
My ugly is the Ravens and Dolphins QB shortage. It seems very rampant. With the Ravens, it was more of they couldn't find a third stunt double for Lamar Jackson until they found Mr. Brown. But with the Dolphins, it's like pretty much each week now they're like, do we put in Tua? What about Teddy? What about what's his face?
Taylor Thompson, who is now the one likely going to be getting the reps.
And I think they also signed a backup QB for him as well with Mike Glennon.
Yeah, I think maybe. Yep. And my ugly actually is the Bears draft situation. And because of what they did during the season. You have the number 1 overall draft pick, but you basically just gave up the top pick of the second round to the Pittsburgh Steelers for Chase Claypool. You did bad enough that you gave the 33rd overall pick to the Steelers for a receiver that did not get a lot of production for you this season because your quarterback is basically like a third running back on your roster. This is why the Bears are irrelevant. This is why the Bears will remain irrelevant. Come on, man.
Skip. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, it just makes me it's like all of a sudden it's like you're thinking you possibly want to hear like some Bears highlight. No, we skip in that.
That's just terrible. That's just terrible, Ernie. Just terrible. I'm hungry, Chuck. I'm hungry.
Oh my! What was the best game for you this week?
It was the Pats Bills game.
And I took Titans Jaguars. And the worst game for you this week?
The Ravens Bengals, just straight up because the Ravens did not show up. They flew away from the field.
I had the Jets Dolphins game because the Jets got stuck in a crash landing and the Miami Dolphins were like fish or no, those dolphins are not fish. They're aquatic mammals out of water.
or I mean, they could have been golfing too out of the water.
No, I was saying that as in like what is basically a fish out of water? It's just going to be splashing.
Well, you did.
It's just going to be like flopping around. It's just going to be flopping around in the water, trying to breathe and look for a sign of life. But it's oxygen, and they have gills, not lungs. But I think that the dolphins actually, with them being mammals, I believe they have lungs and not gills. So,
I was just giving you a hard time because you said dolphins first instead of dolphins on my end. I don't know. Maybe I was overhearing things.
I said I definitely recalled saying dolphins.
Okay, it was probably on me. All right. So here are our bold takes. All right. Do you want me to go first?
Yep, go for it.
So my bold take, it's kind of a mean one, but doing it anyways. Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, coming to Arrowhead to beat the drum for the divisional playoff game, which is me literally saying that the Dolphins are going to lose against the Bills. And with that being said, Tyreek should come to Arrowhead to bang the drum.
Oh my! I already figured that Miami was going to lose anyway because though they got there, I think the quarterback situation just made them not look good enough. So I think this one was almost like an obvious thing. But as far as Tyreek Hill coming to Arrowhead to be the drum for the divisional playoff game, I don't know if that'll happen. However, my bold take might be a little hotter, as this is Stephen A. Smith time. Stephen A. Smith on demon time in terms of talking about this team. It is the Dallas Cowboys will remain a walking accident waiting to happen in the playoffs, as I see them getting eliminated early. And they are going to lose to Tom Brady and the Bucks. 45-year-old Tom Brady isn't going to go down like old man Logan, but this 45-year-old quarterback is going to remain undefeated in his career against the Dallas Cowboys. So, the burning question this week.
What's next for the AFC West contenders not in the playoffs? This is a shout out to Raiders country and Broncos country.
Well, I would say for the Raiders, it's although both situations have Denver has already dealt with the divorce of quarterback to head coach, and it was the coach being forced to leave. I believe in the Raiders case, it is going to be that the quarterback is going to go. Where? Who knows? Who do the Denver Broncos bring in? I believe that Russell Wilson should be inside of those meetings to consult with that. And maybe even be an interviewee or interviewer, I should say, in talking to the next head coach in line for that team. At least have a couple of your key captains in the panel to help consult and figure out which coach is going to be of best benefit. But Russell Wilson doesn't really have the support of that team anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if Denver also kicks him out too.
I think the Broncos need to get him to take some part-time schooling at the Culinary Arts Center downtown. Because Russ cooking is not good.
It's raw. It's stone cold. It's still moving. You have mutilated the cow.
The cow is still mooing.
Well, actually, I think more so with that could be even an overcook, especially with them overcorrecting. I'm going to say here with Black Monday coming and going, although there are probably two coaches in the playoffs right now that could be on the hot seat with I've been seeing Mike McCarthy and Brandon Staley being in the hot seat. But with the early going here, and really only 5 coaching vacancies at this point currently open. Were there any shocking coach firings? And which vacancy at the moment is really the most interesting?
The most interesting to me was Lovie Smith. Yes, their team did not do very well rank-wise, but in the very beginning of the season, the defense of the Texans looked very, very good. But the problem was they didn't have a quarterback that could actually throw it, and also their wide receiver core was pretty bad. Like, just the talent around them was just not it. It felt more like a high school varsity team most of the time on offense, but on defense it looked really good. Lovie Smith is more of a defensive coordinator, it seems, right? Because wasn't he originally a defensive coordinator for the Texans?
He was the D coordinator before getting the head coaching gig.
So if I'm the Houston Texans, pick your poison, but pick the right one, because man, you guys have really shot yourselves in the foot a couple more times than Plexico Burris could even count when it comes to the bonehead decisions you've made. Yeah, I went there.
Oh, I was going to go in the sense of the Texans one was a little shocking, but the thing is that you cannot win by turning over head coaches as you go, like as you go along. You cannot win by constantly turning over head coaches.
That is definitely a big one. Because, like, in the Lions situation, they could have totally kicked off Dan Campbell last season for the season they had. And then this season, they did a little bit. They did definitely a lot better, but
Oh,
not in the sun.
Dan Campbell, or should we even say MCDC, Motor City Dan Campbell, has coached to keep his job.
Right, and I was saying like, hey, like he didn't do his. They didn't do the best this season, but they did way better. Like they actually look like a football team out there. They don't look like a sad promo for Thanksgiving. Even though most of the time they lose on Thanksgiving, but hey, the Lions are doing better. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Lovey Smith thing was like the most surprising to me, especially because it was literally Sunday night, or I guess late Sunday night.
Yeah,
They
late Sunday night into early Monday morning.
yeah, and then I wasn't surprised that Cliff Kingsbury got fired.
Yeah.
You already knew the writing was on the wall. I was more just like, well, let's see what happens, and we we saw Kyler Murray get the battle royale winner chicken dinner, while Cliff Kingsbury uh was sent to the gulag.
Yeah, I see where your Call of Duty references were going.
Yeah, I don't know if they call it like a victory royale like in Fortnite for Warzone, but
Or winner chicken dinner was a PUBG.
yeah, but I just didn't know if they say the same. I think they just say you won in like a generic way on Call
Yeah.
of Duty.
Yeah, on Call of Duty, yeah.
I don't play Warzone. I played Fortnite a couple times. I played a lot of PUBG when it was really popular, and that's the main reference I got from that. But anyways, let's keep going.
But which of the 5 vacancies is most interesting to you? I mean, you have
Um, Definitely the Cardinals, because I feel part of me is curious on how they're going to structure moving forward. Because uh, two things with the Cardinals. One being their defense, because their defense wasn't the best, and in years past it was all right, but like their defense has kind of uh like last season when they went on that huge undefeated start, and then slowly digressed into um, playing worse and worse to where they didn't even get into the playoffs, really. Like, not far, I should say. Um, and, like, it showed against teams that they were actually facing that were actually competitive compared to the ones they beat. And I think they need a change on their defense. Yes, they had JJ Watt for a couple of years, but he's come and gone, and I think they need to shake it up a little bit on the defensive side. As far as the second point I was going to make, the offense, they need to, like, I don't know what they do with Kyler, but whatever they do, they need to set him straight. Yeah, they had a whole contract clause thing in the beginning of his extension where they were saying, okay, he needs to spend this amount of hours, like, actually understanding the playbook. And yes, he has that running joke about playing Call of Duty instead of focusing on football. But the bottom line is, you need to set this man straight, especially for out of respect for the organization and the players around him. You do not want him to turn into Russell Wilson, at least that persona, anyways, to where he does not give the team the respect it deserves, nor does he give the respect of himself that he deserves or the organization.
yeah. I think we've got. I think for me, the shock was yes, the Lovely Smith, but I believe that the most entertaining or most exciting coaching vacancy, excuse me, I think it's actually the Broncos. I think it's the Broncos, Mile High, and the reason why is because that defense is pretty stout.
Yeah, that was like partly why they were in so many close games because their defense was so good. Even though, because like in the beginning of the year, whenever they faced the Colts, I think, or like middle of the year, and that was like everybody was talking about how like that was the worst Thursday night football game because of how like no one, because both offenses were weak sauce, and the defenses are probably more comparable to instead of the offenses. So
Yeah.
it's like yeah, you could spend a lot of money on defense and be like, okay, we're gonna use this to like take more advantage on our defense rather than our offense to score. But I feel like it's probably harder to play defense against an offense rather than offense to play against defense in a way. Because you could argue, okay, well, the defense, they can just turn over the ball or fumble it and then run it in. But you're not always guaranteed that. Whereas when you play offense, it just seems like it'd be much easier to just throw or run the ball and then just get into the end zone. But I I feel like I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot in that regard, but
Yeah. But I think it's either the Broncos or the Colts that probably have the most entertaining look. But
yeah, I see the Colts with their head coaching thing. I feel like Jim Irsay's gonna like act like it's the WWE and be like and just use his persona instead of like the well, he is the organization pretty much, but like I wouldn't be surprised if he kept Jeff Saturday or if he like put someone in that has never really coached in the NFL like Jeff Saturday and just like throws
did you
crap on
really just compare Jim Irsay to Vincent Kennedy McMahon?
I'm talking about Triple H, my dog.
There's a little bit of a difference with Triple H. Triple H actually knows how to book.
Well, also I think Ursay just seems kind of like a nut because if because like the past couple seasons um they've had money to spend, but they decided not to. So my guess is they're either prepping for the future to possibly get a quarterback for the ages, or one that could be a franchise quarterback that they could eventually have enough to sign a big extension to, or uh, they're looking for better opportunities with higher tier players because they had that chance 2 years in a row. But I think what they were trying to do was get trades to afford like high value players or former high value players. Like in years past, you had Philip Rivers as the Colts quarterback, and they um went to the playoffs, I believe, right?
Yeah, but I also think that here's where Indianapolis's solution has to be in place here. Their solution is normally what happened with the two previous quarterbacks before going into this veteran quarterback mode. Draft one.
And better
Yeah.
yet, protect the man, because the reason why you lost Andrew Luck is because of how beat up and sore he was from taking all those damn hits. Yes, he was a former linebacker, but for the love of God, protect your quarterback. Don't pull what Miami did with Tua and just have him get torn apart out there. Protect your quarterback. So,
Yeah.
draft some guys. Quentin Nelson's getting old, and I forgot what the other guy's name was. That I don't know. Bottom line, rebuild your O line. You don't have to sign big money free agents like Kansas City did with Joe Tooney and trading for a offensive lineman. Slowly grow it over time. You have the money, you have the talent, you still have Pittman and the other guys, but for the love of God, figure it out. As for um, what was the other one we were talking about just now? Sorry, I have a focus.
Um. Well, we were talking about the Colts, but I think we're set on
All
all
right,
that
sounds
here.
good.
But now we can go to the film room, and we did not pick anything for Week 18 due to the nature of the week before, and heading into the wild card weekend, Ruckus, I'm up by 14 games. So
Yeah,
amount of
yeah, rub
games
it in.
the amount of
Uh,
games is running a little thin. So, the first game we are going to have is the Jaguars and the Chargers.
I have faith that the Chargers will take over on the Jaguars. Yes, the Chargers defense is very beat up, and they don't have their star cornerback that they benched, J.C. Jackson, and I think it was also injury related. But still, like, you pay a guy like 3 or 4 years, 81 million, play the damn dude. He was the best free agent coming out of the free agent class last season. Come on, man. But yeah, Chargers for me.
I am actually going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars here. The Jaguars defense is stifling. The Jaguars defense is stifling. The Jaguars are hot right now. Jaguars are hot right now, and you know how football is a game about the Big Mo. This Big Mo being momentum.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Mo Bamba, but
No, no. We'd be in the wrong sport. We'd be in the wrong sport for that.
I mean, my man Mo could definitely be a cornerback if you really needed a tall guy to just catch the ball.
Yeah. But I I am saying momentum is and momentum is a critical component in all of this.
I think you
So
could probably also say that the Jaguars could be sleepers as well.
yeah, because they're also not they kind of just trudged in with their record being as it is, but I think that this is a team where you kind of can't necessarily count that out. Miami Buffalo, we both are saying Buffalo. And Cincinnati Baltimore, we're both saying Cincinnati.
San Francisco, Seattle, we both picked the 49ers. And with the
Yeah, because
Minnesota sorry, go ahead.
the 49ers are the hottest team in the league right now.
Yeah, and they have the weapons too to prove it. Yes, their main man Jimmy G got hurt, and before that it was Trey Lance got hurt, and then they were like, okay, well we still have Jimmy G, and then yep, you remember that Jimmy G fella? Yeah, no, But we do have the next best thing that no one saw coming, which was Brock Purdy. And he's been spot on since taking the baton, and has scored at least 2 touchdowns a game, according to a preview breakdown I was listening to.
But they are also a move kind of behind the scenes, or at least a move. We've been highlighting Brock Purdy, but the real winner of this has actually been Christian McCaffrey
Oh yeah.
in getting into a situation that was 1,000 times better than where he was in Carolina.
I mean, that, and especially because, like, literally every year at the beginning of the season that he was with the Panthers, it seemed, he was just hurt. And sometimes I don't know whether that means that the player was, like, quote unquote hurt and just kind of chilling on the sideline, not wanting to play, or if they were legitimately, like, broken.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll see someone on the sidelines and they look like they're okay. They're not like hurting, especially when they're like celebrating with their teammates. But at sometimes you just wonder like how bad it is, but you don't want to question it.
Yeah. And then Minnesota versus the Giants, we both took the Vikings, which
Yep,
that's going.
JJ and Kirk Cousins and TJ Hawkinson. I think that is a big formula for victory against the New York Giants.
But we ran into a second game where there was some disagreement, and ironically enough, both of us, it was in the 4-5 matchup, and you've actually taken both fives while I have taken both fours.
Yeah, I think Dallas, their defense is probably a lot more suited. They have Parsons and Trayvon Diggs. Tampa Bay, it just seems like they're paper thin and looking to fall apart. Yes, Dak has not been the Dak that we all know and love from the Doritos commercials and the Sleep Number commercials, but man, if you get him, Tony Pollard, and Ezekiel Elliott going and going hot, I think you have a recipe that will send the Buccaneers going away. They might sail away while the Cowboys are trying to shoot their revolvers at their boat, just going pew 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 pew.
I am taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they are one of the best teams when it comes to this solid. I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in a very, very tough division, and they were a very underperforming team. They're kind of limping in. However, the difference between this is carrying over momentum from the week before. And I'm sorry, the Dallas Cowboys last week were a complete disaster. And that disaster is that doesn't bode well. So I, in this case, am going to take Tampa Bay in the sense of, number one, this game is at Raymond James Stadium. It's at home. It's Tom Brady, who has never lost against the Buccaneers. They have a whole bunch of different things that
You
Tom
mean the
Brady could do to.
Cowboys?
Tom Brady has not lost to the Cowboys, yeah. And Tom Brady knows how to play this game, and Mike Evans is starting to come into his own right now too. So Trayvon Diggs is gonna have some trouble. And of course, the key factor I think is going to be Leonard Fournette is going to wear out that Dallas defense too.
Yeah, playoff Lenny.
Playoff Lenny. So I am taking the Buccaneers over the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I was just trying to see. I have a feeling Dallas could edge out the Buccaneers.
And we now go to the color commentary, where our whole thing is concept of breaking old habits. or we should say professional sports team rehab.
I ain't going to rehab because I said no, no, no.
That might be what some of these teams do, but we are actually wanting to try and fix them. And do we want to start in the NFL or Major League Baseball?
What's
Because we have three NFL teams and 4 Major League Baseball teams.
I think we start with the NFL because it's more
Oh,
relevant currently.
yep. Okay, so to the NFL, I think we've kind of touched a little bit on this already. And we'll go to the Indianapolis Colts.
I think they need to spend a little bit of money and also get some not free agents, like get a quarterback and possibly in the draft, and also look into some more wide receiver weapons they could get and a running back in the draft. You don't have to draft high for a running back, and you don't. The same could be said about quarterbacks, but man, I feel like if they want to go for Stetson Bennett, which could be a possibility, who knows? He could definitely come to the Colts, and maybe they sign a. I don't know how big of a contract Nick Foles has, but I would have Nick Foles as your starter rather than Matty Ice. Get rid of Matty Ice. Tell him that he needs to go on his lazy boy and watch the games and reminisce about his life rather than actually playing. Because the man ain't Matty is now should now be iced.
Matt Ryan will either retire or Indianapolis will pawn him off for cheap trade asset, or just flat out release him. That is what I think they will do with him. I believe they will be in the market for a quarterback at draft time because I believe they are in the top 5 for quarterbacks. 2023, I believe that the first 18 spots are locked in, and the Colts will have the number 4th overall pick. So they will look at quarterback, offensive line, and wide receiver are their biggest needs. But I think quarterback is going to be there, and I think they will sign Paris Campbell. And what's great about this is that they can look at an offensive lineman, but I think ultimately they will probably end up with probably CJ Stroud.
I think they also need some defensive help too, because Shaq Leonard was definitely hurt for like most of.
He had some injuries, yeah.
They need to like upgrade their defense by not just by signing older guys like Stephon Gilmore, and because eventually the older guys are gonna get injured quicker and be out for longer. When in reality you need some rookies that can stay healthy and or just be younger in age. It also becomes cheaper too, depending on the round they were drafted into. Because like the first round, I think they get paid about.
Yeah, they're paid pretty well. All right, but I think that the Colts will probably at draft time, because they are 4th overall. I'm thinking that they will be grabbing CJ Stroud. So from there, they build the team around Stroud and have Foles as a backup ready to go. Defensively, they can kind of shore up with the middle of the draft, maybe pick up an offensive lineman in there, because they have Jonathan Taylor, who is probably not going to be bad, but I think a lot of this is going to be centered around what the head coach is going to want. at that particular point in time.
Yeah, and God knows who the head coach is going to be if it's
Yep.
not Jeff Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't believe it will be Jeff Saturday. The next one we have will be the Cliff Kingsbury fired Arizona Cardinals.
Let's
And
ride.
the Arizona Cardinals are, just so you're aware, they are the 3rd overall pick.
In the first round? Okay.
Yep.
Maybe they... I don't know. What they do. Either they look in, well, because they extended Kyler Murray, but I wouldn't be surprised if they look into a quarterback or a better running back or someone that could like be a future star wide receiver, because yes, they traded for Hollywood Brown last season during the draft. They also lost DeAndre Hopkins for 4 to 6 games due to the steroids thing. And then Zach Ertz really regressed, and they also had a lot of injuries on that front too. I think they need to spend more of their draft capital on guys that can get to the quarterback, because they did not do. They were pretty mediocre, it seemed, on defense when it came to getting to the quarterback.
But I think that we've got ourselves another situation where, honestly, offensive line is going to be a big thing here. I think the Cardinals will go for the beefiest offensive lineman on the board, the best offensive lineman on the board, or they will go for another edge rusher to kind of cover their butts in the JJ Watt retirement. And I think they could grab some secondary here, just depending on what's really available to them.
As Samuel Jackson said, hold on to your butts.
And then the third football team that we're going to have is actually the team that will have the number 16 overall pick. The Washington Commanders, who are now outside of really the top 5 for getting a top of the line quarterback, and actually will only have one quarterback currently under contract, as Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke become free agents.
Interesting.
But the person who really had the major responsibility of having of Taylor Heineke's success here in DC, Scott Turner, has now been fired. Yes, remember how I said that there was an offensive coordinator firing that we would talk about later? This is it. Ron Rivera is still here. But Scott Turner is not. So, the biggest question will be, how do the Commanders really, with the potential of a sale coming, how do they kind of go about this offseason?
It's very hard to tell because their GM is a dirtbag, for one.
Well, it's Martin Mayhew's the GM, so the owner is the dirtbag.
Oh, my bad. Well, sorry, GM, if you're listening to this, which I doubt, but um, in my opinion, I think since last season they didn't do a whole lot besides trade for Wentz and extend Scary Terry, and obviously draft Sam Howell. I think it's gonna be one of those standstill things, possibly, where they probably try and get some more. I don't know if I would say more defensive help. Rather, they all just think about like getting more offensive help because yes, you have some decent running backs. You have Antonio Gibson. You've got Brian Robinson
We got
Jr.
B Rob. We got B Rob.
and and then on your wide receiver stint, like I just said, you have Scary Terry. You have Curtis Samuel. You've got
Jahan Dotson. Jahan
yep.
Dotson.
You got
Cam
Jahan
Sim, I think Cam Sims, I think, is probably going to be somebody we look into as well. Logan Thomas and John Bates at tight end, along with Cole Turner.
And then
plenty of
your defense is Chase Young and Montez
Young and
Sweat.
Montez Sweat. Deron Payne has to be extended. Jonathan Allen was just extended. Cole Holcomb's a free agent, but we still have Jamin Davis. Kendall Fuller. Well, then you have Kendall Fuller on one side and Benjamin St. Just on the other. But a little more depth at corner is good. Would be good for us. Cam Curl there at safety, and there's a couple of guys that have just kind of stepped up. Like a couple of other guys that have just kind of stepped up. But I think depth at corner would be solid for us.
Yeah, most definitely. I think you guys really need to go for, like you said, the corner, but I would kind of also focus a little bit more on like the inside as well, like the defense, like the tackle or like a edge.
If we extend Deron Payne and we also keep like John Ridgeway, some of those other guys, and we still have Fedarian Mathis who spent most of the season hurt. So we might. So really, when it comes to that interior, we're probably going to be okay.
Okay, okay.
I think we're going to be okay when it comes to the D line.
So mainly focus on corners in the draft and see who
I would say corners, interior offensive line. We really need to look for offensive guards. Quarterback actually should be something we look into, but I do not believe it involves us bringing in a veteran.
I feel like veteran wise nowadays you could probably re-sign Taylor Heineke as like a third string if you don't feel comfortable with him being a second.
I disagree in a sense that I think Taylor Heineke, nothing against the heart that this guy has. I just do not. I think for me, it's going to be something that I think Sam Howell is going to be the better option because he's a little bigger. Sam Howell was making plays. But I think where the Commanders go at quarterback is going to be a little bit more based on who is brought in at offensive coordinator. What kind of offense are we really going to look at here? Are we going to be a little bit more run centric with the two backs we have? Or do we know that we have so many weapons at wide receiver and even tight end that we have options there? Do we really want to run something that's pretty well balanced? Are we going to try and be a little more spread? So we really need to kind of situate the offensive coordinator before we really start looking at what quarterback we want to have brought in. And that is a Ron Rivera call, not so much a Marty Mayhew call.
Yeah,
Because
don't know.
It's going to depend on who Ron Rivera, who the Riverboat decides to bring in as his offensive coordinator. Because I'm sorry, Scott Turner just was not it.
Yeah, I didn't know whether to blame Ron Rivera for what happened or if it was just straight up an OC issue.
It was a Scott Turner issue. Offensively, it was a Scott Turner issue. Because Ron Rivera is a defensive head coach. But Scott Turner, I think Scott Turner is one where, is he a good game planner? I think Scott Turner was solid with the game plan, but but he needed to. He was a better game planner to go along with a head coach who could call the plays. He was a terrible play caller.
Yeah.
But that kind of reminds us of his old man, who was also a former Washington, let alone on top of that, a Washington head coach in Norv Turner. Yeah, so that apple didn't fall too far from the tree.
All right, we ready for the MLB?
Yep, we are ready for the MLB. I think we're going to do three teams, not four in this case.
All right.
I think the team that I want to take out is actually the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, because besides, yeah, we'll just put it there.
Yeah. So the first team, do we want to look into the East, the Central, or the West?
Let's start with the NL East.
The NL East. The team we are looking at here is the Miami Marlins, who have just given up on Miguel Rojas, sending him to the Dodgers. The Marlins, who kind of are in that middle, who've kind of been right there middling, but they've been kind of doing this weird sellers. They've been kind of like a selling team for a lot of these major franchises over the last years.
I
How do the
mean,
Marlins go from, what do the Marlins need to do?
I feel like the Miami Marlins are kind of the shadow of what the Royals, Kansas City Royals, were back in the early 2000s and possibly late 90s, where uh they would have. I noticed this more in like 2004, 2005, around to like 2008 or 9, whenever I was younger. And I mean, I still was super naive to the fact of what was going on in the Royals organization. But as I get older, and now that I realize how talent works and how the potential goes, and just the possibilities of the team being successful, rather than, or like, because at the beginning, whenever you sign a player, you're like, ooh, this might be a good thing or this might be a bad thing. With the Marlins, it seems like what they were doing, like what the Royals were doing in the early 2000s, where like they would sign a somewhat big name, but they would still kind of play subpar and maybe get uh over or at 500 by the end of the season, or they would lose 100 games. I mean, the Miami Marlins really haven't lost 100 games from what I can tell, but uh, the way they kind of handle their business is almost kind of like what the Royals did back in the 2000s, where they sign a somewhat big name, like a couple of them, and then they like try to get other players that are not very that are very overrated or just underperformed in the
Or
past
they
couple
have
of
a
years.
homegrown, or what they do in a lot of cases, they have a lot of homegrown talent that they bring up, but then they ship them off. I mean, they shipped off Giancarlo Stanton. They shipped off JT Romuto. They shipped off Christian Yelich.
Ozuna.
So, yeah, Marcelo Zuna, I think, was another one that really got shipped off. Miguel Rojas, Dan Ugla, Hanley Ramirez, Miguel Cabrera got shipped off.
Dontrell
But
Willis.
I mean, Dontrell Willis, Josh Beckett. So they're kind of like that team that's shipping guys out rather than bringing them in.
Yeah, and it also doesn't help that their ownership changed times, many of those times, because like in the early 2000s, the Marlins uh were they, I think, was it 2000,
They won in 2003.
right? And then after that, they completely just traded everybody, and or had got rid of people. Like Josh Beckett, didn't he play for the Red Sox the next year? And then Mike Lowell played
No,
for.
I think Mike Lowell and Josh Beckett went up to Boston in like the next like 2 years after,
Oh,
2 to
okay.
3 years after, um, and then it was like Miguel Cabrera left later, and then yeah, so there was a whole bunch of different things. But I think the real thing that needs to happen is because really nobody is going to baseball games in Miami. Nobody's going to a baseball game in Miami. So really the real solution that I have for the Marlins is honestly relocate. Relocate because nobody's going to a ball game out there.
I
All the spring
wonder.
tra-
I wonder if they go to like Fort Lauderdale or like somewhere near where they. Because is it Fort La? Is it Fort La?
No, get them out of the state of Florida.
Because I was originally thinking get out of the state of Florida, but I was thinking if they still wanted to stay in Florida, they could go like near the areas where they had the spring training as well.
Oh, no. Spring training, I think, should be an exclusive thing to Florida. And I mean, Arizona has their own too. But I think that Miami needs to get the Marlins. I think the Rays ultimately need to do this too. But I think that Miami needs to get into either into Nashville or to Louisville.
What if they went to Ohio?
Where would you put them? You've already got a team in Cleveland and a team in Cincinnati.
Oh crap! Never mind.
You've
um,
got a team. You've got a team in each
maybe
of those spots.
Nebraska.
Well, Omaha would be a consideration, but honestly, I think that Louisville or Nashville, honestly, are the two best spots.
The Nashville Keys. That'd be a cool one.
Mm. I I would have loved to have said like the Louisville Sluggers or something like that.
That'd be a classic one.
I mean, granted that that's also the name of the bat company, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we
But
go?
now we're now going to move into the AL Central. And we're going to talk about a division rival of yours, Ruckus. But it's a division rival that seems to kind of be right there. But yet they can't get over the playoff hump. What do the
Yeah.
what really should be the approach for the Cleveland Guardians?
Uh,
Who honestly need to have their stadium be sponsored by Samsung so that they can be the Cleveland Guardians of the Galaxy. But that's beside the point.
Boo! Boo! Get off the stage! Throwing tomatoes. All right, how much for that tomato? Oh, $5. All right, can I get like 4 of those? All right, thanks. Here's $20. Boo! um, actually, that wasn't a bad joke, but I'm just cringing a little bit. Um, I think what the Guardians need to do is mix up the way they do free agency and or their farm system, because their farm system seems non-existent, and it seems more like they're trying to get free agent targets, and the ones from the past years were like at best like a C, like 2017 for example, or was it, I think it was, I think it was either 2016 or 2017 when they signed Edwin Encarnacion, and they got to the playoffs, but then the next year after that they traded him to the Mariners, and then you didn't really see Edwin all that much after that. Um, and then after the big World Series run that they ended up losing in, they signed Roberto Perez to a big contract. Um, it seems like they were either moving towards a let's bring a big name to like try to help our team, or they were trying to trade for a big name, or they were trying to extend the players that they already had. Like they were trying. Obviously, Francisco Lindor didn't get extended, but he ended up getting traded to the Mets. But that's because he wanted out because he didn't feel comfortable being there and didn't want to be there. Um, and then like Carlos Carrasco got shipped off with Francisco Lindor to the Mets. Um, and the Mets ended up giving them Ahmed Rosario, and I don't even remember who the other guy was. Um, but like it just seems like the Guardians either trade talent for talent and don't really go for like actual farm system guys. I think they need to um, at least think more than just, oh, let's extend a guy that's been here for a while because he's a fan favorite, and actually make some bigger moves. Because at the end of the day, Owen Miller, which is gone now, Stephen Kwan, which is still there and was very productive last season, isn't going to get you that far in as far as the power that he has. And like Jose Ramirez can only do so much.
Are you saying the words fire sale?
No, not
Do you think
necessarily.
that do you think that Cleveland is going to probably eventually just say we're going to blow this thing up because it's going nowhere and start over?
I think they just need to upgrade a little bit, but do it in a more uh different way of thinking rather than just being like, all right, let's just give some random guy a boatload of money that we could possibly trust and see if we could get this uh ship afloat again.
Well,
Even
realize
because
that a few of these other teams have kind of decided to really do that whole prospect thing with addition by subtraction. The Cubs did this. The Nationals did this. The Reds have been doing this. Are we talking addition of prospects by subtraction of big name players?
I'm thinking possibly. I think they do more short like spurt trades. Like maybe they trade Jimenez, the infielder, or they trade uh Josh Naylor, or they trade uh other pitchers or stuff like that, like Bieber, or someone that's a little bit smaller, like Tristan McKenzie. Like they could totally do that and then make smaller moves like that. Because I don't see them trading Jose
Jose
Ramirez
Ramirez.
because they just signed him to a big contract and they're not going to trade Emmanuel Clase because he's like their closer of the future, and I don't see him going anywhere. But I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
It's like basically what Cleveland has done is that they are the masters of the art of avoiding a fire sale. They just seem to be the masters of the art of avoiding letting go of everybody because they managed to just win.
Yeah, I just don't think they do a whole lot in this scenario. But if they want to break their old habits, you don't have to do anything like outstandingly big just to like win your fan base over. Just do the right thing. Do what's best.
Trade for prospects is kind of where you're looking
Yeah,
at. Like reestablish your farm.
yeah.
But last but not least, the Los Angeles Angels.
All right, where's the dumpster fire at, Spennis? I can't look for it. Is it? Did I go? I went to Oakland, but I think I took a wrong turn.
Um, I'm surprised you didn't find the NFL one here in DC, but that's beside the point.
I mean, that's a little bit farther away, don't you think? I was thinking
Uh,
more that you would bring me to the right direction.
eh, yeah, but really, Los Angeles, you've committed to Mike Trout for so long. You've got Shohei, but really it, the biggest thing is they have to kind of get themselves right with the skipper. They have to kind of get themselves right with the skipper and really signing quality free agents that can play well in LA, but also do better by the farm system. Because I think their farm system might have some talent, but they kind of have to do a little better by them. Because Joe Adele had been sitting there in that potential for major spot for entirely too long. They
I
could have
pers
shipped him off. They could have shipped him off for a big name player a while ago.
Yeah. I personally think they also need to either see if Anthony Rendon in his third year as an Angel can bounce back after the past 2 years he's been out with injuries. Um, if he doesn't bounce back, I see them, uh,
Unloading him, yeah.
yeah, that or trying to get a suitor for him, but that is going to be a very big fat no unless the Nationals pick him up later. But
Or they get maybe a few like lower end prospects.
yeah, but like still like I because one Rendon was a big signing, and then yes, you had Trout, and then earlier on with the Angels you had Pujols, which then went back to the Cardinals to finish out his career. You had um, Noah Syndergaard, which played all right.
Yeah, so they've been stuck with so much money that they can't really they've been stuck spending so much money that honestly really they just need to develop the farm. Focus on the farm, probably maybe even let go of Otani.
which they have said that they didn't want to get rid of him.
But they might not be able to afford,
Yeah,
especially with dealing
Brandon.
with luxury taxes.
Yeah, Brandon Drury also recently signed with the Halos as well, and I feel like he's probably going to be the replacement of Anthony Rendon.
Yeah, I think Rendon probably moves to the DH spot, and then Drury moves over to third.
Because currently I'm looking at the depth chart, and your rotation it consists of this: you have Shohei Otani, which is the given, Tyler Anderson, who was pretty much a bullpen guy for the Dodgers, and then you have Patrick Sandoval, which was semi decent. You got Jose Suarez, decent. Tucker Davidson, don't know who that is, but sounds decent. And then Reed Detmers, which did pretty well. And then your bullpen, the big names here being Aaron Loop and Ryan Tepera, which was there last season. And then your catcher situation, you have Stazzy and Dice. First baseman, you have Walsh and I didn't even realize Urshela went to the Halos. That's news to me. And then second, you're gonna have Fletcher. The and then third base, you have some options. Um, Shortstop, you have more options there too. And then left field, you still have a power bat in Taylor Ward and a little bit of Joe Adele, and then Mike Trout. You also have some speed with Brett Phillips as a backup, and you have Hunter Renfroe at right.
Yeah. So there's plenty. I mean, so they got plenty of some things. It's just a matter of being able to turn them into players that are actually going to be productive for them.
Yeah. And the thing is, the sad part about the Angels is pretty much like the years that they signed like the big name guys from like seasons from seasons before that were really good, and then they come to the Angels and they just progressively get worse. Like C.J. Wilson, for example, he was a star pitcher for the Rangers. He was more. It seemed like he was more of a rookie or like a rookie kind of class guy uh, with the Rangers, and then he comes to the Angels and pitches terribly. Even in the postseason, um, he pitched terribly in 2014 against the Royals of all teams.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, we've got ourselves plenty of options, but now do we want to move on to the primetime game?
Let's do it.
All right. So previously on the primetime game, because we did not do this last week, Ruckus and I eventually tried to guess the year in a little fun trivia segment where score was not kept. So the primetime game for this week is the single game parlay. Ruckus and I will be choosing a game from Wild Card Weekend of the NFL season, and the three legs of this parlay will consist of the winner against the spread, an anytime touchdown score, and which quarterback will have the most passing yards. The tiebreaker will be the handling of our over under. Ruckus, there's 6 games this weekend. Which game is catching your interest?
So here's the bottom line here, Spennis. Um, I think my game interest out of all of them. So my third favorite was probably going to be the Giants Vikings, but I'm not very much invested in that because I feel like okay, well JJ and Kirk Cousins are gonna have some fun against the Giants. The Chargers Jaguars game seems like it's just gonna be a underdog fight. Um, but what really caught my interest was two more underdog teams in the Seahawks and the 49ers. The 49ers, I say that they're underdogs because of the fact that they have a rookie quarterback that is in his first playoff game in his first season, which you don't see a whole lot in the NFL. Um, and against a quarterback that's been in the league for a while, but finally caught his stride again after like a decade and a half of just being like a backup, essentially. So my game I'm looking at is the Seahawks versus the San Francisco 49ers.
I I've in kind of looking and kind of seeing some things off the outside. I was actually I initially was going to be looking at Buffalo Miami, but I wanted to kind of cover my butt against the spread a little bit more and have a little bit more cushion or a little bit more cushion in terms of a closer game than a 13-point differential. So I am actually taking the Vikings versus the Giants as my game in this single leg parlay. So the first thing is the ATS against the spread. You have a 10-point spread in favor of the 49ers, while I have a 3-point spread in favor of the Vikings. So the question is, Ruckus, do the 49ers cover the spread? Do the 49ers cover?
I think they do cover it.
So you're going to say the 49ers are your team win against the spread. I'm
Yes.
taking the Vikings against the 3-point spread. I believe the Vikings will win this game by about 7.
What about the anytime touchdown?
All right. So the question is, who is your anytime touchdown? All right. Who is my anytime touchdown scorer? I believe that the Vikings do have a little bit of bend against the run. So my anytime touchdown score that I am probably going to be looking at is actually going to come from the Giants side of the ball. I'm looking at my anytime touchdown scorer being Saquon Barkley.
I have a feeling mine is gonna either be Kittle or McCaffrey. But since we only get to pick one, I'm gonna say Kittle.
All right, you're going to take George Kittle, who has been a pretty notable passing target for
Purdy.
Purdy. I would have looked my if I would have picked that one, I probably would have looked at McCaffrey. But that's
yeah,
just me.
the I feel like the Seahawks are pretty good against the run though on defense. So
All right. So which quarterback do you think will have more passing yards in the game? Geno Smith or Brock Purdy?
Skip. Come on, man. The Seahawks are going to be facing what was arguably one of the better pass defenses in the league, the 49ers. So I would highly doubt that Geno really gets anywhere with the pass. I think he tries to go to his running backs and or short passes or jet sweeps in order to try to catch the 49ers off guard, because the 49ers have some mean and nasty guys on their pass defense. So my passing yards leader of the day is going to be Brock Purdy, because the man can toss it, the man can run, he can do all sorts of things.
So
And
you believe that Brock Purdy will have more passing yards than
Geno Smith, correct?
Geno Smith?
Because
I am
yeah,
for me. This one was pretty well straightforward. I'm taking Kirk Cousins.
you like that?
And yeah, I do like that. And Ruckus, your over under for that game is 42 and a half. So, do you think the final score of that game will be over or under 42 and a half?
I feel like it could still be a close game, but to be honest, I think the 49ers pulled the rug out. So I'm going to put the 49ers as the over-under.
No. That's not how that works.
Okay.
The over under is talking the total points of the game.
I think they do get about 42.
No. Not the 49ers getting 42. It's the total number of points for each side.
Okay.
Like the combined total number of points scored. So, will the combined score between Seattle and San Francisco be over or under 42 and a half?
I think the overall the overall points in that game will be 42.
Wait,
for
so
both. For combined.
Yeah, you think it's going to be both? You think you're going to go Wait, 42 and a half is just kind of that set bar.
Okay.
So do you think it's going to be more or less than that? That's how an over-under works.
I think I think it's gonna be under, but I think they would probably get up. I don't know. I'm gonna say under, just on the safe side.
So you are taking under. Yeah, and I am actually putting your total number of points there. So my over-under is actually higher. My over-under number that I have to deal with is 48. And I have a funny feeling that even though Minnesota, I think, will win this by about 7,
I think this game is going to have a little bit of scoring. So I am going to say that I think that this game will probably go slightly over 48. So now we see, do we handle our legs? All right. Do we cover our legs, or do we not win the parlay? If we make our parlays, we win. If we don't, the winner will be whoever accomplishes the most legs of the parlay. And we have it's 4 legs. So if we cover all 4, we cover all 4. If we don't cover all 4, whoever has the most. And now we go into our closing segment, the stud and dud of the week. And Ruckus, we'll go ahead and start with your stud this week.
All right, so if you made it to near the end of this podcast, congratulations. So earlier
this was
when
a little bit of a longer episode.
yeah, so my stud was something that I was trying to kind of keep till now, but in a somewhat of a tribute to Damar Hamlin, Naheem Himes for the receipt for like the beginning of the game, getting a kickoff reception, goes for the first touchdown of the game, which is a kickoff return to kind of start the momentum for the Bills against the Patriots. And then at the half, or after the half, I believe, or maybe no, it was before the half. Before the half, he does another kickoff return. This man is a stud for a reason, and that's why I put him there. But my God, the steal that the Bills got for him, getting from the Colts, was so worth it for that.
Yep. All right. And my stud this week, I kind of said it already, kind of mentioned it a little bit already. Sam Howell making his first career start. And granted that the Cowboys did kind of make a lot of mistakes. And the first the first pass he threw was for a touchdown to Terry McLaurin. I think my stud this week goes to Sam Howell in just kind of defeating the arch rival Cowboys in his first career start. And the dud this week.
All right.
Marcus was.
So,
And yes, I did mention this earlier.
I was about to say he did tease it a little bit, but I'm glad that you said it in as vague as possible too. It's all good. I'm not butthurt about that. So as Spence alluded to earlier, with the ring around the rosy, this dud is more just funny rather than sad. The snow globe play being called back for holding on number 52, Creed is good Humphrey. Also, I would like to mention Boomer Sooner, baby! Also, but in all seriousness, the play gets called back for holding on Creed Humphrey, which I thought was kind of funny. But that play itself was pretty damn good. You know, it's kind of funny when in years past, when the Raiders came to Arrowhead, they did a couple laps with the team buses around Arrowhead, and we literally did circles around them on the field for a touchdown play.
Huh. That was definitely like a weird. It was like a weird sense of a play. And,
I just thought it was funny.
It was an interesting design. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, it definitely is an upgrade from what they did in Super Bowl 54. If you remember the play where they kind of did like a backstreet little performance where they spun, well, where Anthony Sherman, Patrick Mahomes, and Damian Williams, I believe, were the three that did the swing around.
Yeah,
You remember that play, right? They did
I
like
think I
a
know what you're
spin.
talking. What were they like winning by a whole bunch? So they
No,
just
no,
did
no,
it.
no, 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 no. This was like I think before the half of the game, maybe, or I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up, but yes, it kind of reminded me of that in a sense, but this was more of that play on steroids.
But there was a team that also did like a mannequin challenge. You have teams that also do the mannequin challenge. There was that stupid Colts special teams play off of a fake punt. Like some good and some bad have come from these weirdly designed plays.
Oh, dude, watch what you're saying, man. Clint Eastwood could hear you.
Oh, I did not throw any ugly in there.
But you almost said the three magic words. You said
I
two.
just said I just said some good. I just said some good and some bad. There's two sides to that coin.
there
There
could have
was
been
no.
a there could have been a little wah 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 in there too, you know, and then he would have been
I,
like, "All right, I'm up, I'm up." He would have gotten up from his nap and then just given you the scour. All right. Um,
all right. So my dud this week was not in any relation to a Deshaun Watson thing. My dud goes to Dwayne Dedman in the NBA for getting ejected from a game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But why did he get ejected? He yeeted a massage gun onto the court.
Maybe he was talking shit to the ref. You're like, "Ref, your calls are so bad that you need a massage. You need to relax a little bit." Or maybe he was making fun of the coach on the other side, being like, "Man, you need to chill out. You need a massage gun here," and then chucked it and then accidentally hit the court. Just letting it sit there, you know. And
Chuck the
the funny thing is, the bench is like so damn close to the court that it is so easy for you to miss that too. I don't know the whole
Yeah.
situation, but I am just assuming this. So if anyone listening to this is thinking,
Chuck,
Ruckus, you're a dummy. That's because I'm causing a ruckus right now, and I don't apologize.
but man, that to me is like I looked at that, I saw that, I was like, wait, when did this happen? I'm like, oh, within the week. This definitely fit. This definitely fits because number one, we don't get very many opportunities to talk about the NBA, and number two, the NBA is typically known for a lot of these shacked in a fool type moments. This just happened to be one of them.
Yeah, this one does not deserve a shakaroni pizza.
Oh my goodness. On that note, Ruckus, shut it down.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Ruckus and the Menace Sports Podcast.
Yeah, that's all that's about all the show we got. All the show we got. I'm Spanish the Menace.
And I am Ruckus, and thank you once again for the support on our sports podcast that we try to do every week. And thank you again for listening. We hit 17 views last week on our latest episode, and I'm very happy that we're slowly but surely growing. Make sure to tell your friends about our podcast. Make sure to share on social media if you sure would like to. You don't have to, but it's very appreciated. Hit the like button and subscribe. Again, thanks again. Have a good night. Have a good day. Whatever. See you later.
Deuces.